Hi there, I'm Wendy McCallum, burnout and alcohol coach and wellness expert, and you're listening to Bite Size Balance, where everyday extraordinary women share their stories, expertise, and wisdom, all in the name of lifting each other up and creating a better life by design. Whether it's wellness, career, relationships, food, alcohol, mindfulness, hormones, or parenting, we talk about all things women's balance. If your life looks great on paper, but it still feels like something's missing, you're in the right place. Welcome to Bite Size Balance.
Hi, everyone. I am so happy to be here today recording another podcast episode. It is Friday. It's actually Friday afternoon here. The sun is out. The temperatures have risen to double digits here where I am, which is a big deal because we've been in a deep freeze for the last couple of weeks. So it is really shaping up to be an amazing weekend. And it is also the beginning of spring break for my kids. On that note, it feels like I was just here. It feels like Groundhog Day, honestly. It was around this day last year that I packed everybody up and we went up to our cottage for the week of spring break because we couldn't travel anywhere as a result of the COVID scare. And we were just at the very beginning of this pandemic and we had no idea what it was going to turn into. But shortly after we arrived at the cottage, it became clear that this pandemic was actually a really big deal. And we were very happy that we did not make a decision to try to travel that week. But that began, of course, a year of complete weirdness that we've been living in. And so it's hard not to think about that today as I start packing things up to head to the same place at exactly the same time of year, because while a lot has changed for me in the last year, a lot has stayed exactly the same. And it does feel like Groundhog Day around here, especially today as we prepare to go repeat the same almost identical week that we had a year ago. Anyway, that's where my head is today. And I am very, very glad to have the distraction today of this really amazing guest for today's episode. I'm going to be talking today to Lyndsay Doyle. Now, I know Lyndsay through photography. Lyndsay is an incredibly talented photographer, and I've been working with her now for the last few years in relation to my business, and she is responsible for all of the beautiful images on my website. If you haven't checked my website out, go and take a peek. I think you'll agree with me. She has a real knack for capturing the essence of female entrepreneurs and helping them really articulate their brand through imagery. So that's how I know Lyndsay. She's also done lots of amazing portraits of my kids over the years, just a really, really talented photographer. But today I have her on the podcast because of her recent, really quite profound and amazing project, which is a book called Strong and Free. It is a collection of really powerful photographs and also short essays to go with each of the photos. So I want to tell you a little bit about Strong and Free before I bring Lyndsay in. The back cover of Strong and Free reads like this. It says, adolescent girls are dropping out of sports at an alarming rate, despite having more opportunities than ever before. More than that, mainstream media coverage of women's sports has declined over the last 20 years, and it currently accounts for less than 5% of that total. Is it possible that there's a connection between these two dispiriting statistics? Is it possible that young girls would have a better chance of staying in sports if they could actually see the older equivalent of themselves more often? With Strong and Free, Lyndsay Doyle believes we have the power to change their lifestyle trajectories through photographs. Here is inspiration for Canadian female athletes, coaches, and officials in one collection, assembled in the hopes of expanding media coverage of female sports and encouraging young girls to enroll and stay enrolled. These photographs capture sporting women in all walks of life, all ages, all body types, from beginners to Olympians. These women share common traits that often transcend sports: determination, perseverance, dedication, patience, and responsibility for showing young girls how sport can benefit them. Strong and Free gives these incredible role models for our young girls a powerful voice. Our girls are watching us, our nieces, cousins, sisters, neighbors, daughters. If we don't show them what they're capable of, who will? So that is Lyndsay's new book, and it's just so great. So I'm really excited to talk to her about where the idea for the book came from and her experience in writing the book and interviewing all of these incredible women, and then just more generally around some of those barriers to sport that exist for women out there and what we can do to change that for young girls and empower them. So Lyndsay has her own story, which we'll talk about as well. But Lyndsay spent a decade in the corporate world and then made the switch to full-time entrepreneurship in 2012 herself. And her photography and writing clearly show her passion for social justice issues, particularly in the field of women's rights. Whether through subject-based portraits or through self-portraiture, Lyndsay weaves art, business, and audience interaction seamlessly while focusing on projects that specifically aim to break down barriers for women and celebrate their strengths and create discussion. And that is exactly what we're going to do today. I think that Lyndsay's book is a really great jumping off point for a really, really interesting discussion. So I am so looking forward to it, and I hope you enjoy it as well. Hi, Lyndsay. I'm so glad you're here.
Hi, Wendy. Thanks for having me.
It is my pleasure. Before we start talking about the book, let's maybe talk a little bit about how we know each other. Because as I was getting ready for this podcast, I realized not only did you do all of the photos that appear on my website right now, and I think we've been working together for, it's got to be like at least 6 or so years.
It's always more than you think. And I think you and I go back probably to even some networking events before that. So probably 7-8 years we've probably known each other. I'm going to guess.
Yeah, I think so too. Because you did some branding for me before I kind of shifted into my current website. So we've been working together for a while, but what I realized today was that the cover art for this podcast is actually your photograph as well.
Yeah, I love that picture.
Yeah. So we know each other professionally through photography largely, because as I was saying in the introduction, you have done a lot of photography for me around my business and the branding, but also a lot of personal photography too. Some of my favorite photos of my kids you took for us. So
yeah. And even some of the, you were involved in one of the personal projects I did with women, which is kind of, we'll probably touch on that at some point because it kind of all led to the project I'm working on right now. So, yeah.
Yeah. I was thinking about that today. It was it like Women in Pants or something like that we did?
Yeah. I called that one Pretty in Pants, like a Pretty in Pink kind of thing. But yeah. So that was an awesome one. I love that one.
Yeah, that was super fun. So I got to dress up for that when I went. Lyndsay had rented a really old historical home in Nova Scotia, and my daughter and I both participated in it. And Lyndsay had a makeup artist, which if you know me, you know that is so outside of my wheelhouse.
It was a very big deal.
Yeah. So there was a makeup artist there, and I got all my makeup done. And then we took these some really cool shots in this kind of funky old house, and some insanely good shots of my kids, which I'll try to remember my daughter. I'll try to remember to share maybe one of those after this podcast airs, because there's that one, Lyndsay, that you took of her. My daughter's a rhythmic gymnast, and so she was doing these like jumps and leaps and stuff in this old building with this kind of light coming in behind her, and Lyndsay took some cool shots of Georgia up in the air. So
yeah, and it wasn't planned at all. I was just like, I think you were getting your makeup done, and we were like, Georgia was just sitting there, and I'm like, hey Georgia, I know you can do like some cool stuff, and I was like, you want to just kill a few minutes with me? And she's like, sure. And we got some amazing shots of her.
Yeah, that was really fun. So that's how we know each other, and of course we're friends now because we've known each other for a while, and we see each other regularly out and about in various circles that we're in. And you started talking about this new project of yours probably now like a couple of years ago. We first started talking about it, and I thought it was the coolest thing ever. And the book is now out, and I really wanted to have you on to talk about the book, but really mostly about the reasons behind the book and what you learned through the process of doing the book. So I tried to introduce the book already in the introduction, but I would love it if you would start by just kind of telling us about the book and what led you to write the book.
Yeah. So the book, in hindsight was years in the making. my background as a photographer, yeah, I do a lot of business branding. I do a lot of family work. I work predominantly with women. It's always been, my focus, even though I'm a bit of a generalist in the photography world, but I'm always drawn to working with women. So I would say 99% of my business clients are actually women. And on the side, I like to do these personal projects, my sort of things that I do for my own creativity, and they're always based around sort of what's going on in the world at that current time with respect to women and what's going on in media and society. And I do these kind of little tongue-in-cheek projects. And the first one I did actually was even before the pants one we were talking about, where I photographed I think it was like almost 100 women without makeup on, and I called it Stripped. And it was kind of a pushback against this whole Valentine's Day thing that was going on at the time, where women were, doing these photo shoots in whatever, in a sexy way. And which is fine. That's great. I love that too. And I do shoot that. But I was like, what if I took it a step farther and asked them to really strip down for me? And so that project got a lot of attention at the time. This was probably, I'm going to say, like 8 years ago or so now. More attention that I think it deserved, because it's not like some radical idea, right? To take a photograph without your makeup on. But for some reason, it really kind of piqued the interest of a lot of women out there. It was kind of like at the beginning of this huge movement that's been kind of, snowballing over the years about women kind of taking control of their strength and embracing who they really are. So from there, I moved into the Pretty in Pants project, like you and I were just talking about, where I photographed women in like this sort of high fashion sort of environment and way of photographing them. But the only rule was I wanted you all to wear pants instead of dresses, because typically you see, dresses. And I thought, well, I'm not a dress girl. Like, I don't really wear dresses. And for me, that's not really, doesn't signify beauty to me. I'm a pants girl. So I'm like, I wonder if anyone else, is pants girl too. So that's kind of where that one came in. And then after that, I took a little bit of time off after that from doing the creative stuff. And then it was 2018 when I got into doing this one. And I was watching, that was an Olympic year, and I was watching the Olympics on TV. And I love, I've been an athlete my whole life. And I love watching sports on TV that aren't the typical mainstream sports that we normally see. So, I thought, I'm in a house of hockey fans here. The hockey's always on here, but it's never really attracted me. I've always been more attracted to those ones, the Olympic sports like skiing and speed skating and freestyle, and things that really don't get a lot of recognition, because it's just really cool to me. And I started noticing that the coverage between the male events and the female events were like 50-50. I'm like, this is really cool. Like, I never get to see women doing sporty things on TV. And then I thought about that for a second. I'm like, why don't I ever see women doing sports on TV? Like, I'm not a huge TV watcher, but I mean, I'm the average TV watcher. I'm a magazine consumer. I'm a social media consumer. Why am I not seeing more women in sport on TV? So I started digging a little bit and doing research, and I wasn't wrong. I mean, I found these like really startling statistics about representation in the media, and women's sports account for about 5% of overall coverage, and that's in a good year. Like, that's an Olympic year. So it was so low that I couldn't wrap my head around it. So because I'm kind of in the sports world, I'm still playing soccer, and I'm a runner, and I'm a bit of a gym rat, and so those are my circles too. A lot of my girlfriends and my friends are in the sports world, and they're doing amazing things out there. And I'm like, well, this isn't fair to me. They deserve recognition. They deserve coverage. They're doing incredible things. They're breaking records out there. Like, why is no one paying attention? And then like one day I was like, I'm a photographer. I can I can give them attention. I can use my platform to show off who my friends who are doing really cool things. And that's where it started. And I had this idea in my head to just do a photo essay, which is typically what I do for this sort of thing. I was thinking I'll find 10 women locally here in Halifax, and I'll photograph them, if they'll let me, doing whatever their sport is, and ask them a few questions about it. And Wendy, like one night I put something on Facebook, and I was like, just looking to see if there's any interest in this sort of thing. And my my inbox blew up. It was like, and I woke up the next morning, first of all, I went, oh shit, what have I done? Like, what can of worms have I opened here? What have I gotten myself into? I have to follow through on this now. And I let it kind of, you know, grow organically, and I started saying yes to pretty much all of them, because they were coming at me from all different places. They were coming at me from an athlete's point of view, a coach's point of view, a referee or an official's point of view, a parenting point of view, and how important it was for them to see um, themselves and their daughters as well in media and in papers, and getting the recognition they deserve for their accomplishments. So I realized really quickly I'm not the only one who feels pretty strongly about this. So I just sort of let it grow from there. And I recognized pretty quickly that there was more to it than just a simple photo essay. I thought there was just more, and I couldn't just do this photo essay online and just put it out there for 15 minutes and then just let it fade away. I was like, I need to do something to keep the momentum going and make this sort of a more permanent thing. And I'm like, I think this is a book. Like, I could see it. I'm like, I want people to be able to hold this in their hands, and I want it on library shelves, and I want it in the hands of teenage girls, and I want them to be able to see, what their future could be in order to keep them active. Because it's not a secret that the dropout rate of teenage girls in particular in sport is exponentially higher than that of boys. So I was wondering, is there a connection if they can't see, the older version of themselves staying active and doing sports in any capacity, um, what what is the point of staying in it themselves? And I, as a former teenage girl myself, I know exactly what that feels like. So I wanted to make this inspiring collection that would inspire them to just keep going.
Yeah, I love that. That's such a good story. And so much of that resonates with me as a kid who was in sport. I participated in sports all the way up through into high school and then stopped.
Yeah.
I
Because
stopped.
why would you really, like, where's the inspiration, or where's the motivation to keep going?
Yeah, well, there really wasn't anything. And I remember going into, I stayed active, but I didn't participate in sports. And maybe we should stop for a second and talk about that, because I think there's a big difference between sports and exercise. So when
Yes.
you're talking about sports in the context of your book, Strong and Free, what's the definition of that?
Right. So my definition changed as the project continued, because I think in the beginning I had sort of a very narrow focus of what I thought sport meant, or what I thought physical activity meant. And the more I spoke to women, to back up a sec, I probably interviewed over 100 women for this book. I think there's about 80 unique stories in this book, and we've actually managed to cover about 50 unique sports and physical activities. And I started to realize that it's not all about being on a team, or it's not all about being in an organized sport where pay for the season, you show up at the same time and the same day every week, sort of that commitment level. I was like, I started learning that's about so much more than that. And it can be as simple as just moving. So it kind of, eventually my mind expanded as I listened to them. And I think that was really important for me, because I went in with this idea in my head about how I wanted it to look. But as soon as I started talking to these women and hearing them, I had to let all of that go and kind of let them dictate where the project went. So we cover organized sports in this book. Your traditional team sports like soccer, basketball, hockey, baseball, and then we even get into some individual sports. Maybe like golf or archery or climbing, or things that are a little bit more individual, more free to kind of do in your own time. And we talked a lot about the benefits of both of those things. And I think, the common theme was that you have to figure out what works for you. There's no debate that physical activity, whatever your abilities are, is healthy and beneficial. But I think there's a real opportunity that's not being sort of capitalized on by helping people figure out what their thing is. I see the benefits of team sports. I see the benefits of individual sports, but I know which ones I like and which ones I don't like. Um, Opportunities are there's more opportunities now than there ever have been. I mean, when you and I were younger, you didn't have too many choices of what was available to you. I remember wanting to play baseball. I wasn't allowed. Girls didn't play hockey when I was young, where I grew up. I had a choice of soccer, swimming, gymnastics, and those were pretty much all that was available to me at the time where I grew up. And it's really nice to see more opportunities and more options out there for all ages. And that was important to me too, as the book went along, to talk about not only the variety of sports, but the variety of roles within the sport. So if you're not an athlete, maybe you're a coach, maybe you're a amazing volunteer, maybe you'd rather be the referee. There are so many options within sport and activity to be involved, that I really wanted to show that there was a place for everyone.
Yeah. And that's one of the things I love about this book. Like, I was reading through it, and, I think maybe the first few that I looked at seemed like pretty traditional sports. I wasn't surprised to see them covered in the book. And then as I continued reading, I was like, man, I didn't even know this was a thing.
Right?
Some of the things I was like, this is so cool. I didn't know this was a thing. And there was one story, I can't remember the women's names, but there are two women highlighted, and they have a club, and I was like, I need to have a club like that here. It was called
The outdoor, yep.
Get the Fuck Outside. I thought, what a
Yes.
great club for women, because there's so many women out there who are, who have no idea how to even start with that kind of thing. They don't know where to
Yes.
go. They don't know how to do it. It can be very, because we haven't had the same role modeling around this as our male counterparts have. We don't feel confident in these areas. We have no idea how to do it. It involves a lot of firsts for women, and
Yep.
can be really intimidating. So I loved I loved that aspect of the book. I love that you explored all kinds of different activities.
Yep.
Um, so one of the things that I noticed when I was reading the book is that some of the women that you highlighted in the book are obviously very competitive and like at a high level with their sport in terms of the competitiveness. But you also had a number of women in the book who did not seem to be as competitive, and so it was more about the participation and less about the competition in relation to that sport. So
Yep.
can we talk about that for a second, because I think that's an important, it provides some accessibility and an entry way into sport that a lot of women don't realize is there. I think we think, well, if I'm going to, become an archer, for example,
Yeah.
I need to have a goal, and it needs to be
Yeah.
competitive. Or if I'm going to,
Yeah.
like with some of these sports, I have to be working towards something specific
Yeah.
with it.
Yeah. And I mean, that is a mindset that does work for some people. Some people like to have that goal. They like to just keep pushing, 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 and that drives them and that motivates them. But for a lot of us, it doesn't. And I think there is this misconception, because of what we typically see on TV. We typically only see professional sports on TV. We don't see a lot of sports that are just, you know, participation. And I think there's a real need, today, to get back to that idea of participation first and competition second. And it could be coming from a place, as a mother now, and I'm watching I have two boys, and I'm watching them go through sports. I see, through a different lens, this focus on competition that I personally don't agree with at such a young age. And I've seen kids as young as, 10, 11, 12, 13 straight up leave their sport because they didn't make the highest level of team, because all their friends were trying out for the team, so they don't make it, so they quit completely. That breaks my heart. And I think it sets up a really bad example of, if I can't win, I don't want to play. And I think that it's been very important to me to recognize that over the past few years. And I've learned a lot, working through this book, about how important it is to just participate, to just show up and be okay if that's all it ever is. We don't all, aspire to be Olympians. We don't. Some of us just want to, I don't know, maybe go a little faster than we did last week, or who cares at all? Like, we just want to show up and have fun and be with our teammates or our club mates, and be social. And there's those benefits there too that I think we're overlooking a lot these days.
Yeah, I actually would say that it's not just some of us who want that. I would say the overwhelming majority of women are not interested in like being the absolute best, and they're looking for the other benefits that sport brings them. And as you were talking, I was thinking, like, I wonder whether one of the reasons why this is tough for girls and for women is that there are just not very many teams out there. So as a girl, if you play on the team, especially as you get older, the team becomes more elite because
Yeah.
there are only so many girls playing. And I feel like it's almost like a vicious cycle in that
Yeah.
the less girls play, the more elite the teams get, which means the less girls want to try out for the team and play on the team. And it just, you get weeded out if you're not one of those ultra competitive kids. That's certainly when I think back on sports, that's the way it was for me. I mean, I was able to play junior high, soccer. I think I played soccer, basketball, and volleyball all the way through junior high. And then by the time I got to high school, I wasn't cut out for any of those high school teams. I couldn't have made those teams. And then there really wasn't an option for me. If you don't play team sports at school, where do you play those things? I might have played
Exactly.
soccer for one more year in grade 10,
Yeah.
not on the team, but it became really obvious to me that there was no spot for me to keep playing, which
Yeah.
basically led to the last time I played team sports organized. Now,
Yeah.
God love my sister. I know she's on your soccer team. So
Yeah.
shout out to Meg,
Hi,
who I
Meg.
don't think ever listens to this podcast because she's but anyway, shout out to my sister. She has tried to get me involved in team sports since. So she tried to pull me into the world of ultimate when I moved back to Nova Scotia, which I kind of had the same experience with that. To be honest, I found it super intimidating because it felt like everybody was really good on the team and I had no
Yeah.
idea what I was doing. So
Yeah.
I think that's a common female experience, and I'm somebody with a fair bit of personal confidence, but
Yep.
when it comes to team sports, there's something about that environment that just gets overwhelming and intimidating fast. I think when you come in as a stranger, and I think for women, it's probably made worse by the fact that there are so few teams out there to
Absolutely.
join. So
It's an intimidating world, and I want to work at kind of taking the intimidation factor out of it a lot, because I got to tell you, like, even as a photographer, like, showing up to some of these shoots, I wasn't even participating, and I find the environment intimidating sometimes. But the more you talk to people, and um, the more questions you ask, and the more open you are, and the more you do have, there is a little bit of bravery involved in this. And once you try it, and if you find the right people, I mean, these communities can be so welcoming. And I think that you'll find, like, by reading through some of these stories, that some of these women, goes deeper than that. It goes to, like, this sport saved my life, this sport
yeah,
became my family, this became my best friends, and the thing that I look forward to now every week. So I do, there's a little trial and error involved when people are trying to find what their thing is, but when you find it, it's just so rewarding.
yeah, totally agree. And so that brings me to maybe my next question, which is, what are the reasons, like why is there such value in women being engaged in sport? I mean, what is it? What's the value in it for us? Why do we need more sports as women?
I think, and back to your original point about kind of discerning between the terms sport and physical activity and exercise, I tend to use them interchangeably. So I think, you can, you can't, whatever works. But there are, I think, I mean, I'm not a coach, I'm not, a sports psychologist, but I think, based on my research, I feel like the mental health benefits very much possibly outweigh the physical benefits. I mean, obviously, we know there's physical benefits to exercise and participation, and what it does for your body, and what it does, for your muscles, and all that. But what really kind of surprised me, and didn't surprise me at the same time, were the mental health benefits that I kept coming across. And um, a lot of us, when we're adults now, we have stressful jobs, and we own houses, and we have bills, or we have kids, or we have relationships, and life gets really stressful. And the the mental health benefits of being involved in any sort of exercise or physical activity are very beneficial to us to take back into our, what I call our regular lives. Um, I, I'm I feel like they're still being treated as an extracurricular, as like oh, you're so lucky. It must be nice that you have time to go do this. But I have found, from personal experience, once you start making a little bit of time for it, um, it makes the rest of your life a lot easier to manage. And I don't, that's, me speaking from personal
Yeah.
experience, but I feel like it's almost an investment in your health to move. And we cover a lot of different abilities in this book too. There's a handful of wheelchair athletes in here, and it was fascinating to listen to them, and we had some great conversations. And I do feel like to recognize what your abilities are and to move within your abilities and within your range is just so beneficial. So I mean, I can't really speak too much about the physical part of it because that's not my strength, but I mean the research is there.
Yeah, and that's really what I was kind of getting at anyway, was the non-physical benefits. I mean, that's kind of, we don't need to go into that. I think we all know that exercise is important.
Yeah.
But more from the perspective of some of the topics that I talk about on this podcast a lot. Mental health obviously is a huge focus here. This is,
Mhm.
I'm a burnout coach, and I deal with unhealthy coping mechanisms and addictions as part of what I do. So, and the role of exercise and sport in that is huge. But also the connection piece and the community piece, like just looking at, first of all these stories in the book. There's so many stories in the book about connection that has grown through sport or activity, for women, and finding a community that maybe they were lacking, or
Yeah.
um, filling some need that they had. But then also just kind of looking at my sister. I see her as a great example of somebody who's in, this organized team sport. So that's why I'm using you guys as an example. But
Yeah.
she's been playing soccer since, well, we both started playing soccer as kids, and she just kept playing soccer. She played soccer all through, but she's an example of someone who didn't fall through the cracks because she played varsity soccer. I mean, she was a really good soccer player,
Yeah.
and now continues to play soccer and absolutely loves it, and will move mountains to get to those games. Like,
Yeah.
she has been leaving our family dinners on Sunday nights for ever to
Yeah.
go to
I've
soccer games.
declined many Sunday night
Yeah.
dinner
Yeah.
invitations.
We
Yeah.
have regular family Sunday night dinners, and she leaves to go play soccer almost
Yeah.
every single time. And that, to
Yeah.
me, is a testament to what she gets from that sport, because
Yeah.
it's not exercise. She gets exercise in other ways. It's something else that she gets from that. So
Yeah.
I love that. So, I mean, how can we change this? How can we, I would love to see a world where there were more accessible options for sports out there for women, for all women, but especially for, older women. By that, I mean like women over the age of 20. That's really what I'm
Yeah.
talking about. Like,
No, that's how I kind of refer to them as well. Independent women who are maybe not depending on their parents to drive them or pay for them anymore. So, and that's one of the questions I always, every woman I photographed for this book, the only question I ever really asked them was why? Like, why are you doing this? Because at this age, no one's making you do it anymore. Like, no one is saying, oh, you have to do this, and my mom's not doing my laundry and dropping me off and paying the bill anymore. So I'm paying out of my own pocket, out of my own time away from my kids and my work. Why are they doing this? And the answers always varied, but they always kind of came back to, it gives me something when I do this that I don't get in my day-to-day other busy life. And sometimes, once a week is enough to keep me going through the weekend, to keep a smile on my face and to keep me relaxed and to keep my stress levels in check. And that's enough. Some people they need it every day. Some people, and what the accessibility thing is something that is a real uphill battle. And at the root of it, and what's in my capability of doing is to keep showing other women doing these things so that maybe someone will see them and inquire further. How is that woman doing it? Where is she? How can I get involved? That looks interesting to me. So that's my strength. I've also, in the past couple of years started to get a little more involved at a board level. Or I've been asked to speak to groups of younger girls and talk about the importance of participation over competition and things like that. And also from a parenting point of view, I see my boys are involved in hockey and soccer, and we do some running and stuff in the summertime. And I keep seeing this movement in their organizations. They put so much emphasis into the elite programs, and it really, really bothers me because to create an elite athlete, that's fantastic, but where do they start?
Mhm.
You know what I mean? So I feel like we're getting away from our sort of grassroots, organic, societal, let's get people moving, let's get people together, let's get them healthy. And
Mhm.
then maybe we have a niche for them down the road if they decide they want to take that road. But I feel like there's so much emphasis now on the business of sport and the development of these elite athletes, and it's happening younger and younger. And personally, I don't think that's the right way to go. So in the back of my book, I talk about this, and I talk about, getting boards in place and policies in place to focus on their grassroots programs and to focus on participation first, and then developing their skills later on. And it's been, yeah, really eye-opening. I feel like there's an opportunity here to really move backwards, to not move backwards, move forwards, but to take it from, learn from the past and to start at a more grassroots level.
Yeah, no, I totally hear what you're saying. I feel like the word that's missing from all of this discussion that we've had so far is fun.
Yeah,
And, um, you know, uh, the truth is 99.9% of people are not elite athletes and never will
yeah,
be. And
exactly.
again, almost all of us will just be, and I don't say just with any form of judgment because I fall in this category, recreational athletes.
Yeah,
And, and some of us will never even be recreational athletes because we're so intimidated by the competitive world of sports.
yeah,
And so a big piece of this has to be bringing the fun back into this. And that's one of the reasons, again, to go back to what I was saying earlier, why I love this book. I loved the fact that you highlighted these sports, and not all of them. In fact, many of the athletes were not at a highly competitive level. They were just doing their thing and loving it, and
yeah,
also providing a real like variety of sports in terms of
yeah.
these options that were out there. Again, I didn't even know half of these things were things that were available.
I didn't know either, and I always thought I had a good pulse on what was going on out there and what was available, and clearly I did not, because I came across some amazing sports that were just fascinating to me, that I didn't know women were participating in. So I'm like, girls need to see this. I mean, we have Jessie up in Windsor who's doing timber sports, and she's like competing in axe throwing and chainsawing and wood chopping. And I'm like, that is so cool.
Yeah.
I can think of a handful of young girls who would probably love to try that.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's true. And we have no idea what the avenue is into that. Nobody even knows that that exists. So,
No.
I mean, this kind of ties in really well with something I have talked about on this podcast before, something that I talk about all the time in coaching, which is the idea of letting go of the word exercise and moving into the use of the term joyful movement, which
Mhm.
I think is the only way. Well, I don't actually think, I know it's the only way to get all of the benefits of exercise. You can
Yeah.
get the benefits of exercise by doing something that you hate, but you won't get all of them. You'll just get some of them. The way to get these mental health benefits, the way to get these community benefits from it is to be doing something that you actually love. And I will say the same thing about this as I say about just about everything out there. If you don't know what you like yet, the only way to find out is to go and try a bunch of stuff. You have to get
Yeah.
out there and try it,
Yeah.
and look for groups that are doing different things, and then just say, hey, can I come and try this? Can I come
Yeah.
to a practice? Can I come and watch? Can I come and see what this is all about? Can I
Yeah.
can I call you and ask you about this thing that you're doing?
Yeah.
And then go and try it. And it's like dating, like some of it won't work, some of
Yep.
it won't be for you. I mean, I've tried, it's only this in the last 2 years that I have found a form of
gym exercise that I actually love. I've been to every gym out there. It took me forever to find the right fit for me.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking when we were talking earlier, I was thinking about that whole team sport thing and how I fell out of that. And the only time I ever came back into team sport and it was joyful for me was something called broom ball, which I played in law school.
Yeah.
And we
I
used to
played broom
play,
ball in college too.
used to play it on like the ice at like midnight after all the
Yeah.
hockey ice had been used up. We'd get all the crappy times and we would show up and we would play broom ball in these crazy like foamy shoes and like run around. But it was just for fun.
Yes.
It was just really, really fun. It was great exercise. We ran around on the ice for an hour, you know, but it was really, really fun. And where is the broom ball? I mean, God, it's probably be like a liability for me now to try to play broom ball.
Yeah.
You know, where are those sports now? Where are those opportunities for women to participate in fun, just really fun activities like that, which is again, why I love the two ladies. Shout out to them, whoever they are, who started the Get the Fuck Outside Club. I think it's the best idea ever.
That's Kaylee and Stephanie from Fredericton, and they're incredible because they're quite well-rounded athletes themselves, and they're very adventurous outdoor types. And what they've done is they've created this club where they will expose women to a variety of activities. And I'm not going to use the word sports here because I know they go skiing, but they also do a lot of hiking and camping and things that are just getting outside and getting together and meeting new people. And they're all beginners. I mean, they're all beginners because they saw that need too. Like you were talking about, Wendy, to get people active by taking out the intimidation factor, by taking out the exclusivity factor. They pride themselves on their inclusive environment and everyone's welcome, and they mean it. I mean, I was there with them. They're walking the walk and talking the talk up there, and they have created this fantastic club where you can, and they do field trips and they do this, and it's just like, it's so fun. Like they've made it fun.
If it's not fun, you won't do it. You just won't keep doing it. That's the truth of it. You will not keep doing it. And if you do keep doing it and it's not fun, it will just become another stressor.
Yeah.
It will just become another thing that contributes to potential burnout as a burnout coach.
And that's for all ages too.
Yeah, absolutely. All ages. And you'll eventually resent it so much that you drop it, and it will probably leave such a bad aftertaste in your mouth that you won't be willing to try other things after that. So it has to be joyful. It has to be something that's fun. I always say, like, if you don't want to go, it's not the right thing for you. You should be excited about going to the thing. And take it from somebody who's done a lot of exercise in her life that she didn't want to do, including running full marathons. You know, if you don't enjoy it, you're not going to get all those benefits from it. And the end result of the running thing for me, my running career, which spanned like 20 years, is that I never run anymore. I hate running. It just because I never loved it in the first place. Right. So I do think it's really important, if you're doing something right now, if you're listening to this podcast and you're doing something and you're thinking, I don't enjoy this and I have to drag myself there every day, that's a sign it's not the right movement for you.
You have to do it. Yep.
Yeah. You got to find something fun. And I think the reason I wanted to have you on this podcast is just, you know, to highlight the fact that, it's hard to find something fun as a woman because there's nothing, it feels like there's nothing out there, but the truth is there are lots of things out there. It's just harder for us to find them. And that might be unfair, but I think we're used to that by now. I am well used to the world being unfair as a female person. And we just have to take back some power over this and do the research ourselves and figure out where these things are happening, and then get out there and try them on for size.
Exactly. And in my experience, every single organization I spoke to, dealt with, showed up to, they were so excited to have someone new come in to experience their sport. They rolled out the red carpet. They love having people come try it for free, come sit and watch, come talk to us. They love their sports and their activities so much that it's just the most welcoming environment. And I didn't come across one sport that wasn't 100% welcoming to me and to anyone who wanted to try or who was interested, because they love showcasing what they do. And so I want to kind of break down that barrier of the intimidation factor of trying something new, because it's not I don't even know where it comes from. I think it's because we are so used to seeing in media the best athletes, the most fit athletes, the most, they're young and they're fast and they're strong, and then they just cease to exist anymore.
Well,
Then they
and
just
I think it goes back to what we were talking about before. I think it goes back to the fact that as you get older as a girl, the opportunities decrease because there just aren't as many teams, partly because girls are dropping out, partly because it's becoming more elite and girls can't feel like they can't participate. It's just become, you feel like you get squeezed out of it all because you're just not good enough. That's certainly the way I felt in high school. Did I feel in high school like super empowered to keep playing
No.
basketball, volleyball, and soccer on the side when, there was no chance of me making the varsity team? No, I just felt like, okay, you're just not good enough. So this is over.
That's right. That's right.
Your career, I'm putting it in air quotes because there was never a career in sports for me.
Right.
But, it's
Right.
over. And so now move on to other things. Find something else that you're good at, which is really unfortunate because I think that there is a piece there that's missing for me that would actually be lovely to reincorporate into my life. And it's actually something that I've been actively thinking about now for the last couple of years. And then COVID hit. But I was thinking, maybe pickleball. Like
Right?
I need something and I don't know what it is, but something. And the reason I'm attracted to pickleball, and there are probably going to be pickleball people out there who are mad at me for saying this, but I just assume because of the name pickleball that it's just like kind of a fun sport. So I assume it's not like ultra competitive. I know there are competitive levels of pickleball, but I assume anybody can show up and play pickleball, which is why I am thinking that maybe when COVID is over, I will go try pickleball. So if you want to try pickleball with me, send me a message. We can go to pickleball together.
Yes.
But my mom is an example of someone who went through this transition and who actually, spent for a very long period of her life. My mom did not do organized sports, but then she got on the tennis ladder at, the place that she spends a lot of time in the winter in Florida, has an outdoor tennis court. And she got on the tennis ladder and she learned how to play tennis. And, she's no tennis star, but it's super fun and everyone plays tennis. And now when she's there, she plays tennis several times a week. And it took like, 50 years for her to get back into sport, which is not what I want to see happen for me, and definitely not what I want to see happen for my daughter. Which brings me to the next point. You talk about super role models. So this idea of like, as a woman, I think role modeling something, presumably a different kind of beauty through strength and participation. Maybe you can tell me a bit more. I'm assuming a lot of stuff in that. I don't know exactly what this super role models term refers to for you.
Right. Yeah, no, you're right. So my, initially the whole idea was to show women as role models for girls. Because girls don't always have that in their house. Not every mom is super active. Not every a family is a sporty family. So girls will also rely on their teachers, their coaches, their neighbors, their aunts, their cousins, the women around them who are influential. So I wanted to show, those women to those girls. I don't think we realize the impact like a single photograph can have on a younger viewer, right? I think it's the whole birds of a feather thing, in that when girls see women who look like them or resemble them in some way, whether it's even if they have short hair or long hair, or their skin color is the same, or their body type is the same, they tend to gravitate towards them. And so it was really important to me to show a nice cross section of what women actually look like. So authenticity was really important to me. I know, when I play soccer, I don't look that good doing it, right? Like I am sweaty and I'm, probably angry looking, and my clothes it's not what you see on TV, right? So it was important to me to show women of all backgrounds and all ages and all body types as role models. And it was kind of a play on words of not calling them supermodels, because I feel like you see a lot of things on social media that aren't really realistic. So I wanted to show the realistic side of women's sports. We dress a certain way. We don't dress for media coverage. We're dressing in what's appropriate for the sport and what feels good. And, we're coming out, muddy, dirty and sweaty, and we smell, and we're not smiling. And so, I never asked any of these women to smile. Like I would never.
Yeah.
It was important to me that they wear the clothing that they would normally wear for what we were shooting them in. Don't do your hair, don't do your makeup unless that's part of what you do anyway, to show like this really truly authentic side
Mhm.
of physical activity, so that this toxic culture of scrolling social media and thinking that every woman who does physical activity is like a you know
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah.
It's not true, and it's harmful. So I wanted to show the realistic side of what it really looks like.
Yeah, that's great. And so what can we do? I was just thinking as you're talking, I'm thinking, well, we can start doing that with our own social media feeds. I mean,
Yeah.
God, I could talk about this forever, but I think
Yeah.
anybody who listens to this podcast knows how I feel about social media and just the complete,
Yeah.
basically bullshit that it is 99%
Yeah.
of the time in
Yeah.
terms of what people are putting out there. I mean, it's such a curated version of everybody's life.
Yeah.
Uh, is I'm thinking the very best thing that we can do as women is actually post real pictures of us engaged in whatever activity or exercise or joyful movement is part of our lives regularly, and not
Yeah.
be ashamed to post it. If you post those things, girls will see it.
Yeah.
Girls follow me,
Yes.
girls follow me, and
Yes.
which surprises me, but I see them on there and I'm careful
Yeah.
about what I say as a result
Yeah.
of knowing that they follow me. And it's very important to me that whatever messaging I'm putting out there is empowering. I'm having trouble with that word, empowering for me, but
Yeah.
for women like me, but also for younger girls. And so I think it's important to do that. Don't just show that, amazing photoshopped picture of you doing the lotus pose in a non-real yoga class. Show the
Right.
photo of you sweaty,
Yeah.
with your
Or
friends.
your attempts, or
Yeah.
your behind the scenes, what it really, it's dangerous, it's beautiful. I mean, and it's kind of a double-edged sword for me because of the industry I'm in, and that's my job, is to show beautiful images, right?
Right.
Or that's the expectation of me. But I've been pulling away from that a little bit over recent years, because I'm a little tired of it myself, and it bothers me because now, with my kids, my oldest is a teenager, my youngest is coming up right behind him, and they're on social media, their friends are on social media, and I can see who's following me. I have a responsibility to show them what I think they should see or could see or would want to see. We have more power than we think we do.
Yeah.
And I think people, it's a subconscious thing when you're just scrolling through, and the images that stick in your mind, are they setting good expectations? Are they setting unrealistic expectations? Because I think we forget how much power and how much um, influence we have
Yeah.
over particularly our children, or our children's age, or a younger generation. I want them to not worry about it. I want them to not stress about what they look like, because I firmly believe our bodies are vehicles and not decorations. And I think that we need to bring the focus back to what can I do, instead of what do I look like,
Yeah.
and health first.
Yeah. So great, Lyndsay. Before we wrap up, there was one thing that you and I talked about when we were having our chat, our pre-interview chat. And we talked about the difference between, we talked about kind of the framing of all of this from a mindset perspective in terms of the kind of tied into this joyful movement thing. But I think you raised it and I was like, oh, right on. That's exactly the language that I use around everything, really, when women are trying to make positive change, which is what this podcast is all about. It's all about helping women make change and become get closer to whatever it is they want for themselves in terms of their life. But we were talking about this idea of looking at exercise from a perspective of abundance and what it actually gives you, instead of looking at it as something that you have to do, instead of looking at it as a chore, which ties into everything I'm saying. But just starting, this is one little simple thing that you can do if you're listening to this podcast and you're struggling a little bit with this. First of all, like, do you hate what you're doing? If the answer is yes to that, start trying other things. That's what I would say. But if you're someone and you're like, well, sometimes I like this, but a lot of times it just feels like a chore, then I would suggest you start you flip around the language that you use around that. Start saying to yourself, I get to do this.
I get to do
this.
I
get to do this. I get to go to the gym today. I get to go for a run. I get to go outside in the sunshine and ride my bike. I get to play soccer with my friends. I get to whatever. Because it is a privilege. So we are very privileged. We're talking about all of this from a perspective of great privilege, Lyndsay, in that we have the ability to take time away because we have people who support us, for example, with our kids. We have partners at home, both of us, who can help with our kids and give us the opportunity to go do these things. And we also obviously have some means. So we're able to afford some of these sports, and some of them are expensive. So when we are able to do this, I think it's important to frame it from that perspective of I get to do this, partly because of the privilege thing that's associated with it, but partly because it is actually a thing you're giving yourself. It is a gift. It is a good thing that you are giving yourself. It is not a chore. It is not something that you need to do. And of course, the more fun it is, the easier it is to say that. So go back to that whole joyful piece. How much joy is there in this for me?
Exactly. It should never feel like a punishment. It should never feel like, oh, I have to do my workout now. It's okay to slow down. It's okay to take breaks. You don't have to quit. And this is something that I've been learning over the years too, is learning when to take a break instead of quitting. Right now is a great example. I'm taking a break right now. My gym closed. I started doing home workouts. I was not looking forward to them every morning. I was pushing myself through them for I don't know why. And I slowed down and I started to do some yoga instead, because I knew I had to pull it back. And then, I'm just stretching a little bit, starting to go outside for walks right now, but I'm being gentle on myself. And that's something that has not been easy for me, because I think, in our society that you and I both live in, there's this real, it's just a go, 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 till you drop kind of lifestyle that doesn't work for me. I tend to, I've gone through burnout before. It's not pretty. I'm not going through that again. I'm learning to be gentle on myself, to try new things, to not be afraid to suck at trying new things. None of us are good when we first start anything. Even, you think something like running, you think that might be an easy sport. It's not. It's one of the hardest ones, in my opinion. You have to go easy on yourself. Give yourself a break. Have fun with it. Like you said, if it doesn't bring you joy, then it's not your thing. We have choices. And like you said, we are coming from a place of privilege here where we have choices. And if you have the same privilege that we do, and it hurts, or you feel like you're being punished, or you feel like this is terrible and you don't want to do it anymore, don't do it anymore.
Yeah. And honestly, the best exercise out there is the exercise our body is designed to do. We are made to walk.
We're made to move.
That's what we're designed to do. We're made to lift. We're made to squat. We're made to, we're made to, like, those are those basic movements, which require no equipment, by the way, nothing, just requires some time. And again, on the privilege piece, I think I was thinking in myself more about the time piece of it. Like, I'm privileged enough that now, and also my kids are older, so I have the ability to do this. And that's a great example, though, of that flexibility piece. Like, there are times in our lives when this feels a lot harder, in which case, just do the best you can and don't worry about it. I used to say to my kids, do the best you can. Yeah. Do your best and forget the rest. Because I think that's what we need to do again, in those really busy times in our lives. But I would say, to recap this, I'm trying to think of like 3 things that we can do as women to start affecting change in this. So I have one idea, which is, remember, you're not just role modeling for your own kids, you're role modeling for all the other kids out there. So if you're somebody who plays pickleball, invite your neighbor's kid, invite me. If you play pickleball, invite me, because obviously
please invite Wendy for pickleball, please.
Love of God, get Wendy to shut up about pickleball. Someone invite me to play pickleball. But that's part of it.
Yeah, post on social media like everybody's watching.
Yeah.
That is one place where you have to act like everybody's watching.
Yeah. So maybe I'll post about my pickleball plea on social media, but I think you have to ask, you have to drop some of the fears around, being vulnerable around this and just say like, hey, I am looking for something to do that's fun and I don't know what the hell it is. Anybody have any ideas? Is there anybody doing something that I could go do with you to try it out? And I think if you're somebody who has something fun that you do, I think it is really important that you share that with other people. You let people know what you're doing and then you actually offer it to other people around you. So that was my main takeaway from this in terms of what we regular people might be able to do to improve.
Yeah.
Because the statistics are shocking.
They're really awful. Yeah.
5% of media coverage is women's sports, and that is in a Olympic year. Yeah. So in non-Olympic years, it's significantly less than that. Yeah. So but women should be participating in 50% of sporting activities. Yeah. I'm sure they're not.
They're not. You're right, but it's more than 5%. That's for sure. So, there's a real discrepancy there. Like participation rates are quite high. So where are they? Why are they invisible? Why isn't anyone seeing us or hearing about us or,
It's interesting because we don't, this is not an area. I mean, I'm certainly aware of it in the area of elite sports and the lack of coverage of women's elite sports, which angers me, the fact that we can't watch women's professional sports like we can watch men's professional sports. But what I hadn't really contemplated before you published this book was just the complete inequality in terms of accessibility to sport and maybe also participation. So thank you for shining the light on that with this book. It's such a beautiful book, you guys. The photographs, of course, it goes without saying, are incredible. And Lyndsay's right. The women are not all smiling, which I love. In fact, I think Lyndsay's a couple times told me not to smile in our photo shoots because I tend to be like just assuming that I need to be this, bright, rosy person. But anyway, the photographs are beautiful, but the personal essays that go with them are very moving. There are stories of overcoming some incredible challenges for these women, and also, physical challenges, but also mental health challenges, and the role of, the role that their sport or activity has played in their feeling of well-being and of community. It's just really, really powerful. So if you get a chance to take a look at Strong and Free, I really recommend it. It is going to be, something that my daughter reads and that I hope everybody's daughters have the chance to see, because it's just really, really powerful. It's powerful for kids, but it's also powerful for women. Like, again, me reading it thinking, I could do this now.
I could do that. Yeah.
Lyndsay, I did notice there's no pickleball player in there. So if there's a Strong and Free 2, perhaps I will be the pickleball. Huh?
Maybe that could be your motivation, Wendy. We're not all motivated by medals or prizes or money, but maybe that could be your motivation.
It could be me. You never know.
I'd love to do a second book.
Yeah. And you can follow Lyndsay online. Lyndsay, you're at Lyndsay Doyle Photography.
On Facebook, I'm Lyndsay Doyle Photography. On Instagram, I'm L Doyle Photo.
L Doyle Photo. Okay, great. So you can follow Lyndsay there. And honestly, I can't say enough about Lyndsay's abilities as a photographer. If you're a female entrepreneur and you're looking for brand shoots, she's just fantastic. Go and look at my website. I get regular comments about the website, and the reason the website looks so good is because the photos are amazing. And you'll notice that my brand colors are clear in there. It's so, I think personally, I mean, such a lovely reflection of who I am as a person and what matters to me as a coach. And that's all because of Lyndsay, not because of me. So anyway,
collaborative effort.
So, well, thank you so much, Lyndsay, for coming on today. It's been such an interesting discussion, and congratulations on this book. It's such a great book.
Thanks, Wendy. Thank you so much for having me.
Just one final note before we wrap up today. If you're interested in getting your own copy of Lyndsay's book, Strong and Free, for your coffee table, which I strongly recommend, especially if you have girls in the house. If you live locally in the Atlantic provinces, you can reach out to Lyndsay directly to get a copy at her website, which is www.lyndsaydoyle.ca. That's LYNDSAYDOYLE. And if you're not local, you can order the book on Amazon. Have a great day, everyone. You've been listening to Bite Size Balance with your host, Wendy McCallum.
As a burnout and balance coach, I help busy, high achievers like you create a more balanced, joyful life. If you've been putting yourself last for way too long and are worried that you're burning out, grab your free burnout checklist at www.wendymccallum.com/checklist. That's www.wendymccallum.com/checklist.